start by clarifying some butter. Need a little more butter. You have to put in like about twice as much butter as you actually need, but we only need about a tablespoon or two of butter. So just taking the white foamy stuff off the top. So we want clear butter. And these are just the milk solids. We're just tossing it into the trash. And that's good enough. I'm dribbling in just a few drops at a time, 1 1/4 cups of milk. This particular recipe uses all milk, but I often use Julia Child's all-purpose crepe recipe, and she uses half milk and half water. So if these are a little thick in the end, I'll add a little extra water to them. You just want to add the milk a little bit at a time to make sure that all the flour gets absorbed into the liquid. And then we're going to add 3 eggs. And now I'm just adding, because we're making a sort of a Mexican flavored dish, mushrooms, stuffed crepes. I'm putting a little cilantro in these crepes, but you know, make them plain. I use them for blintzes. I don't put anything in them. You can, sometimes I put dill in them if I'm putting smoked salmon in the crepes. And we're just going to let it sit for about 10 minutes before we start cooking our crepes. If I were making like a stacked crepe cake, I would use a bigger pan. But this makes a really big crepe if you're filling it with a rich filling like we are today, a very rich filling. So I'm just using this little one, which will make an individual portion. I only use these pans for crepes and omelets. That's it. Well, a crepe is like about half egg, so it's the same thing. Never use them for anything else at all because I don't want the finish to wear off. I want the pan to get nice and hot, so I sizzle a little water on it to make sure it's hot like this. And then I'm going to use what's left of our clarified butter and just put a tiny bit in the pan. You don't really need very much. In fact, after we make the first couple of crepes, we won't need any clarified butter at all. So I have a parchment-lined pan. I'm going to put it right here between my 2 pans. Now, I make crepes like tons and tons of time. So I know that I can do 2 pans going at a time. A lot of people will tell you that you'll lose your first crepe. I haven't lost my first crepe in years and years because as long as your pan's hot enough, you're fine. And if your batter is the right consistency. Now, we don't know if these are really the right consistency. We're going to find out. I might have to add a little water. Here's my little 1/4 cup measure. I have to add a little more to this one. I swirl the dough around. We just let it cook for about 20-25 seconds. I think this dough's a little thick, so I'm going to add a tiny bit of water to the next one. Then we flip it over. And the second side doesn't even need 20 seconds. It needs like 15 seconds. Some people don't even bother cooking the second side. And there we go. It just flips onto there. Okay. Flip this one over, and then you know you can kind of get an action going. Flip this one over. That one's a little well done because my pan was hot, but it's fine. It'll be fine in the finished product. Sit there, flip this one over, and you can just stack them on top of each other. They don't stick. You can let them cool completely and then cover them really well and use them next day, or you can just use them right away. There's our yummy mushroom filling. The recipe for crepes, it doesn't vary very much. I most often use Julia Child's recipe. It's a traditional French recipe, but really there's so little variation in recipes. The only difference that this one is from Julia's is that this one uses all milk, Julia's uses half milk, half water. We're going to make just some little individual ones. A little bit of the sauce in the bottom of the dish. Just put a couple of spoonfuls of the mushroom. This is just sauteed mushrooms, onions, garlic, and we mixed half of the sauce into the mushrooms. We just roll them up right there, plop it in the gratin dish. And then we're going to put more sauce right on top of it. A little cheese on top of that. I'm using manchego cheese, you can use jack cheese. It's not your typical Mexican dish that we're all used to, especially here in Southern California, but really, really tasty. Stick them in the oven. Yeah, brown and bubbly, and we're ready to dig in.